Welcome to the DFS Jags 2022 American Express Open Championship. I don't even know. They played in Palm Springs. It used to be the Bob Hope. It is a pro-am. There are 3 courses, but it is the first show of the year for the pod. On the line with me, as always, my co-host talking everything PGA golf, betting, and DFS. Well, let's see. We need to come up with a new nickname, Rick. What's the new nickname going to be in 2022? It can't be the DDS of DFS because I feel like we've beat that to death. We got to come up with a new nickname.
I don't know, man. Right now you could call me the shingles of DDS because I got a case of the shingles.
Ooh, shingles are no fun, dude. My wife had those
Dude,
probably
it's
about 5 or 6 years ago, and that was not fun at all.
brutal. I don't even know if I'm gonna like be up for going to the event this week, man. Like literally, like on Friday of last week, I woke up with this like searing pain on like my head, like right here area.
Really?
Yeah, and it's been so bad like over the weekend, and then I finally saw a doctor about it today, and he was like, "Yeah, you got a case of the shingles." So he gave me some medicine and some pain medication to manage it. But it's I wouldn't wish this upon anyone, man. It's like some of the worst pain I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, my wife had it really bad, like on her side, like here and like down
Yeah,
her back. And then I'll never forget it when I was in college. A guy that I played ball with in college, he got it. We thought it was a staph infection, but it was literally like from like here on the inside of his leg all the way across.
that's
And
brutal.
he could not get out of bed for like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
Shingles from like knee to knee, from like sack to rear end, the whole area, dude, just in excruciating pain.
That sounds miserable, man. I can't even explain it. Like I just literally like it hurts to wear a hat right now. Like there's like pain like that radiates from like the back of my head to like my forehead, and it's just like I don't know how I got it. Like the guy's like probably like just from stress or whatever. But apparently, like if you've had chicken pox in your life, which I had when I was younger, you can literally get it at any point in your life. Like it's just something that happens.
Yeah, it just flares up, and there's
Yeah,
all kinds of things that can cause it to happen. Dude, that's terrible, man. I'm
yeah.
sorry to hear that. But
I'll say, yeah.
speaking of things that were painful, and speaking of things that flared up,
Russell
even
Henley.
yeah, even though I didn't have money on Russell Henley, I had full PTSD because 2 times previously this year, or I should say in the prior season, I had money on Russell Henley, and he did exactly what happened again this last Sunday. It
I
was
mean,
excruciating.
dude, I just recap just thinking about his round on Sunday. The guy led the tournament by 2 strokes
Uh,
going into Sunday over Hideki. He shoots a 29 on the front nine, a 29, and he loses the tournament. How is that possible? Please tell me.
Yeah, I mean, I had this overwhelming feeling because obviously it was happening on a Sunday. It was wild card weekend, so I'm flipping back and forth between NFL football and golf, and I'm watching this, and I'm like, first of all, I was super thankful I had no money on Russell Henley. Like all my dogs, I kind of had Seamus Power in the mix, but he was kind of out of it, and he never really was kind of in the top 2 with Hideki and Henley. But he made it interesting because I thought, midway through, I'm like, okay, he's got a shot. If he can make a run on the back 9, Powers could put himself in contention. And all I was thinking is, I remember twice before in 2021 having a Russell Henley ticket and watching him melt down on Sunday, basically in his wheelchair trying to go uphill while somebody goes sprinting by him to the finish line.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal to watch. It is what it is. I so far this year, I started off well. I had a first round leader ticket and a whole tournament ticket on Cameron Smith at the Tournament of Champions. And then the only thing I really had in contention this past weekend was I had a ticket on Keith Mitchell and Corey Connors, but they were never really like in it to like win the tournament. So I was just watching football and then flipping back and forth. Like when I saw that Henley had a 5-stroke lead going into the back 9, I thought it was over. And then I was like flipping back and forth, and like slowly but surely Hideki is like making a comeback and Russell Henley's choking. And Henley puts it in the bunker on 18. Off the tee,
Twice.
and can't make birdie to win. And then Hideki hits probably one of the most amazing 3-woods from the fairway and in the playoff. Just absolutely sticks it to 2 feet, makes eagle, and wins the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, the 3-wood that he hit into the sun was probably the best 3-wood that I can remember anybody hitting ever on the PGA Tour. And again, you don't really remember shots like that, but to be in a sudden death playoff, to be 270 yards out and to just stripe one to 3 feet into the sun. I mean, he hits this ball and then he's like, I don't know where it went. And you're watching like, is it left? Is it right? Where's it's going to land? It lands literally 6 feet in front of the pin and then rolls up to inside of 3 feet. The crowd absolutely erupts. And you're like, the only thing that I could think of was poor Russell Henley. This guy just can't get across the finish line.
Can't do it. Nope.
Yeah.
We should talk about Hideki, man. I think this guy's a pretty underrated career now, man. Like he's won 2 WGCs, he's won a Masters, he's won the Sony Open now. He's won Waste Management twice. Like, I think he has like 8 or 9 wins, and he's 29 years old. I mean, that's
And a major.
Yeah, and a major and a Masters. Like, that's a pretty good resume before the age of 30. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Hideki for me is, and it's something that Jeff and Pat talked about on their show, is we were exposed to Hideki at such a young age. I mean, he was on the PGA Tour at 18 years old.
Yep.
So he's been on the PGA Tour for over a decade. And we went through a period of time here in most recent history where he didn't win for like 3 or 4 years. So I think a lot of people, I don't want to say they wrote him off, but a lot of people were like, okay, he was a good young player and he's going to play on the PGA Tour and he's going to win some jabroni events here and there. And then he wins the Masters, and then, he turns around and wins the Zozo, and now he wins this event. I mean, the guy's got 3 wins in the last 12 months. I mean, that's pretty amazing. And I think the trajectory for him is off the charts. We talked about doing a season preview, and because of scheduling, it didn't work out that way. But there were a handful of guys that I had kind of earmarked in my mind leading up to this year that I'm like, I think this is the year that we really see some guys rise to the top. One, like everybody else, is Sam Burns. Sam Burns kind of has turned the corner. He's become that guy. The other guy for me was Hideki. After he won the Zozo, I'm like, okay, Hideki's really starting to put things together. And the knock on him has always been that he can't putt. And what we saw this last week was when he putts basically even with everybody else in the field and he has one hot day, he's going to win because his ball striking is so immaculate.
So good, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he led the field in putting last week, and if Hideki leads the field in putting, he's going to win the tournament. I mean, it's as simple as that.
No question.
It's simple as that. So his ball striking has always been immaculate. That's never been a concern with him. His driving off the tee is pretty good too. Never really been a concern. It's always been the putter if he can turn it on. That's why I wasn't really on him last week. Like, just historically at Waialae. Yeah, at Waialae, he's never putted well on those greens, and for some reason, I don't know what happened. He just flipped it around this week and led the field in putting and won the tournament. But I mean, it was a pretty fun tournament to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good tournament. Obviously everybody got burned by Cam Smith. Cam Smith was the darling. You and I, to your point, had tickets on him the prior week when he won, like everybody else did, and he was the odds-on favorite going into this week. But the third guy that I do want to mention before we transition over, which I guess would be a little bit of a lead into the tournament that we have this week, the third guy that I'd kind of earmarked for this year to have a massive year, and you could arguably say he had a massive year last year, was Patrick Cantlay. I think Cantlay is going to contend in basically every major that we see this year, and I have picked him to win at least one this year. I think Cantlay, Hideki, and Burns are all guys that are starting to transcend game and become that next elite level of players. Cantlay was always great ball striker, just can't finish. We saw him win multiple tournaments last year. The other guy that's kind of been floating out there, and he was the darling of the swing season, was Taylor Gooch. Gooch has kind of started to show up. Seamus Powers is another guy that started to kind of turn the corner. So we have some guys starting to elevate their games, and a number of those guys are in the tournament this week out in Palm Springs, close to you and I. We're out in Temecula. I'm out actually in Vegas today and for the rest of the week, but I'll be back. You and I had planned on going to the event pre-shingles.
Yeah, but, we'll see. I might still go if I feel better by Saturday.
So fingers crossed we still end up out at PGA West, but this week it's the American Express. And coincidentally, I've heard a lot of narrative like you, watching the podcast, reading a lot of the blog spots, consuming content to try and figure out, where we want to land on certain guys. But one thing that I would say that is very different this year compared to previous renditions of this tournament is the fact that we've actually got a very good field. We have 8 to 10 elite level players in this field this year, which is very different than where we've been in prior renditions of this tournament. Typically there's 2 to 3 top end guys and then a bunch of jabronis, and we end up having a guy who wins anywhere from 60 to 150 to 1. The reality is the field this year is much better than it's been typically, and we're going back to that pro-am 3-course rotation where we didn't do that last year.
Yeah, I actually liked it last year because it was only 2 courses and a stadium course for 3 rounds, and that's usually fun. I just played this course a couple weeks ago, so I got some firsthand knowledge of this course. I mean, all I can say is, I played pretty well that day. I shot 79 at this course, and I'm not that good of a golfer, so it's just one of those courses where these pros just tear it up. All I can say is that I feel like approach is really, really important at this course. The way that the greens are undulated and the way they can position some of these pins, it's really important to be able for approach play this week. I think these guys are long enough off the tee where most of the water doesn't really come into play on this course except on 17. But the thing is that we only get it for 2 days. I can't really speak to the Nicklaus course or La Quinta. Those are 2 of the easiest courses renownedly on tour. So we know those courses are going to be lit up. So I can only really speak to the stadium course because I played that course. But it's a pretty difficult track for amateur players, but I can see how pros just tear this course apart, and why every year this tournament is in the mid-20s when it comes to scoring.
Yeah, you talked about the other courses. We don't have shot link data, but by and large, the narrative behind those other 2 courses is they're very similar. They're both par 72s. They're roughly 7,200 yards. It's just there's not a lot of trouble. Adam Hadwin is the absolute king of the other courses in this tournament. He's the guy that's absolutely.
He shot 59, right?
Yeah, he shot 59 on which course
La
was
Quinta,
on the La Quinta course, which is the easiest of the 3. And so it adds a dynamic where, from a DFS perspective, if you're playing Showdown, if you're looking at these different courses where, you can target golfers who are on these easier scoring courses. The stadium course is the most difficult course. That's why it's in the rotation twice. They're playing it, once during the week and then once on Sunday. And so it will have 50% of the rounds that the guys plays will be on this course. At the same point in time, you're going to play 2 other easier courses. So if you can go out and absolutely blitz the field on one of those easier courses, you give yourself a massive advantage going into Sunday when you go back to PGA West.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not a huge fan of these course rotation courses. I don't understand why we can't get shot link at the other courses, why we can't get cameras at these other courses. It's really annoying, to be completely honest with you. The PGA Tour is literally bursting with money right now. Why can't they put shot link towers at these other courses, man?
At least we're going to get coverage with ESPN Plus. We're going to get coverage at all 3 courses. It's the first time that we've had that since they've had these rotational courses. We'll get the same thing when they go to Pebble Beach. So I'm at least happy that we'll get to see shots and rounds on these other courses because that's something we've never seen before. But getting into the details a little bit about this course at PGA West, we talked about it ad nauseum, but there are 3 courses in the rotation. The course that will be played twice, the stadium course, the Nicklaus course, is a par 72 at 7,147 yards. Bermuda greens. Last year's champion, Siwoo Kim, that was a winner for me last year.
Winner for me also.
Yeah, double winner for us on the show. A lot of people had a Siwoo ticket. He's a Pete Dye specialist. This is a Pete Dye designed course. And so, you have guys like him, Answer, Streelman, guys that play really, really well at Pete Dye tracks. They play well here. It is a desert course. There's not a ton of trouble other than, like you mentioned, Rick, having played the course and mentioned the fact that water comes into play on a number of holes. But literally it's more for how it affects the eye and not necessarily the way that you're playing. Because there's water on a hole doesn't necessarily mean that it's in play. It just has a mental impact on guys who don't play well with water. But if you're a guy who is doing well off the tee and, to your point, playing well on approach, it's not going to come into play on many of the holes, 17 being the exception to that. Key stats for me this week, you mentioned it. Number one is approach. For me in my model, it was more than 2 times what I weighted things compared to any other major stats. Other big ones, birdie or better. You have to be able to score. You mentioned it multiple times as we're talking about this. This is a birdie fest. This is the kind of course and the kind of tournament where guys score, 20 to 25 under. So you're going to have to score birdies in bunches. Par 3 scoring, it's been shown over and over again, regardless of which of the 3 courses that you're playing at, and probably more so at PGA West, the importance of par 3 scoring at these courses. And then, of course, key proximity. The amazing thing about PGA West, when I dug into the stats, that 15 to 18% of the approach shots, which is the overwhelming number of approach shots for the guys, are coming from 150 to 175 yards. And so that is a key distance for me. Those are the key stats. Rick, what are you looking for this week?
Pretty much the same stuff. I really am a Pete Dye course history guy, like you have listed there. I think that those are the guys that play well at Pete Dye courses. Just got to play them. But yeah, approach, the typical stuff, tee to green, Bermuda putting and stuff like that. That's all important. But I think the biggest thing here is approach, and I think the iron player is the key. The really good iron players are going to be the ones that tear up this course.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into it here. At the top of the board, we have 4 names above $10,000. Jon Rahm, Patrick Cantlay, Scotty Scheffler, and Tony Finau. For me, I got up Monday morning, checked the odds, and I had this weird feeling, which is different because like we talked about, this course has produced some winners from way down the board.
Mm-hmm.
But I mentioned this is a different makeup, at least at the top of the board. For guys both on the betting odds and on the DFS side. I had this feeling that just triggered. I'm like, if you were smart, you'd bet 3 guys. You'd bet Jon Rahm, Patrick Cantlay, and either Scotty Scheffler or Sungjae Im. I just feel like they are perfectly set up. The other guy that you might be able to throw into that rotation because he is going to be a popular play, and we'll talk a little bit more about him when we get into that, is Abe Answer. But at the top of the board here, how do you go wrong with Cantlay or Rahm? I mean, they just set up so well historically, stat-wise, on Pete Dye tracks, playing in this tournament. I mean, they check every box.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you would have. I mean, obviously, it's being shown in the ownership projections here. Everyone's flocking to those 2 guys, Rahm and Cantlay. If you have the balls to pivot off them and fade them, then you're going to be different, like starting off your lineup. So definitely, I don't think I can get away from those 2 guys. I think those 2 guys are the cream of the crop here at this course. Just look at their history. I mean, Rahm has a 6th, a win, and Cantlay last year scared the crap out of me shooting a course record at this course and almost taking it away from Sibu with the 2nd place finish. He has a 9th place finish here before. But if you want to be different, you're going to have to go to Scotty. You're going to have to go to Tony Finau if you want to start your lineups and be different than the rest of the field. So I don't think I can. I don't think I can get away from Rahm and Cantlay. But I think that the guys right below him you're gonna be a little bit different going with Scotty or Finau here, who also have good history here. Finau finished 4th last year. Scotty finished 3rd here a couple years ago. So I don't think you can go wrong with any of these 4 guys. If you're playing game theory here, definitely go with Scheffler or Finau. But if you're going with who I think is going to win the tournament, it's going to be between Rahm and Cantlay.
Yeah, I mean, there are 14 guys this year inside the top 50 in the world golf rankings. That's the most that they've ever had in this tournament. So the field is much stronger. There are good numbers on guys, but I agree with you. I just feel like this is Cantlay's year. I talked about it kind of on the jump and our lead into all of this. I just think he's going to have an unbelievable year. Obviously he won the FedEx Cup last year, but I just think Cantlay is going to go from being kind of at the Xander level to being one of the super elites this year. I think he wins at least one major. And I just have a lot of things in my mind that I've earmarked for Patrick Cantlay. And I just think he's going to start by doing it at this tournament. He's played well. You mentioned it. He almost stormed back on a Sunday from, 8 or 9 shots back to win this thing. He finished in second place. Luckily for me, I had a Siwoo ticket and a Cantlay ticket. Obviously, the Siwoo ticket was a much bigger win, so I was rooting for that. But, for him to come out and shoot what he did on Sunday was unbelievable. It's a place where he's familiar. He's a Southern California guy, went to Servite High School. So, he's a guy very familiar with this track and the setup. And for me, if I'm choosing one of these guys, both from a betting perspective and on the DFS side, it's probably going to be Patrick Cantlay. I think if you, to your point, had the stones to pick a guy where you're going to get leverage on the rest of the field, it's Scotty Scheffler. I mean, he's the one guy that hasn't played from this group, and I think he presents probably the best ownership game theory benefit of the 4 guys above $10,000.
We haven't seen him in a long time. I don't even know the last time he played was. So, does he have the rust factor? I don't know. But I don't know, man. With Scotty, I kind of need to. I kind of think I'm going to be late on him because I need to see him win before I commit to him, because I don't know, man. I need to see him close out a tournament before I bet him.
Yeah, I mean, the thing for me is it's the same thing why I'm staying away in the betting markets from Finau. Both him and Scheffler, to your point, it's like, show me you can win. Finau makes all the sense in the world, whether you're doing one and done or DFS. Like, to me, he's the safest bet. You get $1,000 off of ROM in terms of discount. So from a DFS perspective, Tony always outscores his pricing and his placing. He is the guy that presents the most value. He's got a 4th and a 14th here, so 2 top 15 finishes. He's probably the safest guy to play in terms of being able to build lineups around him. But to your point about Scheffler, I show me you can win. Show me you can close it out. Show me you're not Russell Henley getting run down by Hideki on a Sunday. Like, be that guy, and then I'll jump on that bandwagon. He's a fine play, but he kind of has these weeks where he shows up and where he doesn't. I mean, this course is a perfect, or I should say this tournament is a perfect example of that. The guy comes out the first time he's ever played it and finishes 3rd, and then he misses the cut the next time he plays it. So which version of Scotty Scheffler are we going to get? I think that's the big question. And for me, I don't have the stones to play him with the other 3 options above 10K.
Yeah, I don't have any bets from this range right here. My card starts a little bit lower in the 9Ks, but I agree with everything you said. I need to see it from Scotty. So if I'm not going with Rahm or Cantlay in any lineups, I'm going to probably start with Tony. He's great. He finished 4th here last year. I think he's ready to kickstart his season. He hasn't. Did he play in Hawaii? Oh yeah, he played in Tournament of Champions, right? Yeah,
he did play in the Tournament of Champions. He finished 19th out of the 30-some golfers that were there. So he got a top 20, or you could say he finished at the back of the pack, however you want to read that.
Yeah, but I think this course sets up really well for Tony. Yeah. He's long enough off the tee and good enough approaching. You just got to make some putts, Tony.
Absolutely. Dropping down into the 9Ks, this is where my betting card really gets juicy, and where I think a lot of people are starting to target where they potentially build lineups. But you've got some big names here, guys that we've seen recently who've been playing well. And then, of course, some guys that we haven't seen in a while, two big names. But you've got Gooch, Power, Connors, Wolf, Answer, Zalatoris, and our boy Russell Henley, all above $9,000. Who do you like in this range, Rick?
Matthew Wolf. He's my first guy on my betting card. You'll see later in the show. I mean, just talking about from an ownership standpoint, the chalk in this range, like you mentioned earlier, is Abe Answer. The guy has absolutely great course history here, but he has sucked so far this year. I mean, he had played terrible at the Century Tournament of Champions. He did not play well at the Sony Open, so I'm not too thrilled to play Abe in the spot. I think it's a good spot to fade him at 20% ownership. Everyone else in the 9K range is pretty evenly spread out ownership wise. They're all between 10 and 15%. So pick your choice of the litter here. They're all pretty good plays. You can't go wrong with any of them. But I like Matthew Wolf. He's I think he's going to come around this year. I know he had his struggles last year. He got hurt. He had the mental health issues. but I'm going to go with Wolf in this range. I also like Will Z. I always like Will Z. He's my guy. I can't get off of him. I'm going to play him in every DFS tournament this year until he wins one. But I really like Wolf and Will Z. And if we're going to talk approach, even though he doesn't have the greatest history here, he has a miscut in the 50th. I mean, we got to talk about Corey Connors.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, Corey Connors, I felt very strongly about Connors here last week. Both him and Im, I had pretty big tickets on. Obviously, Im missed the cut. But, Connors, I thought could show up like you. I was hoping he could make a run on Sunday at a course where he had putted well, which is hard to say. There in Valero, Texas, are really the only two places where Corey Connors has putted well in his entire career. But, he didn't turn the corner like I had hoped. And of course, Russell Henley and Hideki played phenomenally all 4 days. So, hey, no bad on Corey Connors, but this, to your point, is a great spot for him. If we can get him to show up like he has the last couple of tournaments, it is a good spot for him. He's the kind of guy who he's not a Pete Dye specialist, but he does play well on similar tracks. We talked about Valero, which is the Oaks course in San Antonio. It is a comp course, a corollary course for this event, and he has decent history at this event. Not great, but, hey, he has played here before. And there's really not a lot of things that this course presents from a challenge perspective that does not suit his game. If you're looking for guys who are good on approach, who are good off the tee, and you're just hoping that they can have that spike putting week, Corey Connors is your guy.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. What are your thoughts on Sung Jae? I mean, the guy won earlier this year in the desert in Las Vegas. We know he likes desert golf. He's had coming off of a missed cut. This is probably a good time to buy back in after him not playing that great last week. He played really well at the Tournament of Champions a couple weeks ago. So, yep. With Sung Jae, he's not going to make the cut every week, but I think it's a good spot to buy back in on him after a miscut last week.
Absolutely. The buy low theory is something that I would subscribe to with Sung Jae. He is a guy that is on my card this week. You talk about just raw course history or tournament history. He's played here. The last 3 times he's played, he has 3 top 15 finishes with the top 10. Mm-hmm. He plays very, very well, highly documented on Pete Dye tracks. He's top 10 for Pete Dye history. Statistically, he sets up well for this course. Sung Jae is one of those guys where it never seems like everything's working. If ball striking is on point, his putting falls apart. The next week he shows up and he puts the lights out and he can't hit a green in regulation. So you never seem to get all the aspects of Sung Jae's game to line up at once. But I would say this, based on his trajectory, to your point, the fact that he has a top 10 finish in the last 2 weeks here, his course history, he's probably my favorite play in the $9,000 range. My betting card is going to be littered with guys from this range because I do think this is the strongest 9K range that we've seen year to date, swing season through where we are today in January. And to me, Sung Jae is the guy. I'm not going to be on Abe from a DFS perspective, but I will be all over Sung Jae in this week.
The most popular builds this week are going to start off either Rom or Cantlay, and then one of these guys, and then skip the 8K range and go down to the 7K range to round out the lineup. So that's going to be the most popular build this week. So be aware of that. Dude, I never thought I'd see a day where Taylor Gooch and Seamus Power are priced ahead of like Patrick Reed and Abe Answer and these guys. I just can't believe it. I can't play these guys at these high prices. That's unreal. As good as they are, they're playing wonderful. Taylor Gooch was the king of the swing season. Seamus Power played great last week. I think he finished 3rd, maybe.
Yep.
I just these prices for these two are unreal. I'd rather drop down and play Wolf or Zalatoris.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about win equity and upside, I think you're absolutely right. The pedigree for what we know for Wolf, for guys like Patrick Reed, even Ricky Fowler and Justin Rose to some respect.
Yeah.
It's just there's a certain pedigree that goes along with those guys. At the same point in time, I mean, let me just rattle off Seamus Power's finishes. He's got a 3rd at the Sony Open. He's got a 15th at the Tournament of Champions, a fourth at the RSM. He missed the cut at the Houston Open, but then the week before he finishes 11th at the Mayakoba, and he has a 12th at the Bermuda. And basically Taylor Gooch has identical finishes, except that he actually won the RSM.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got two guys that are riding heaters. You know, Taylor Gooch has played very, very well at this course. He's got 3 top 25 finishes. You know, Seamus Powers has played this as well. He's got 2 finishes inside the top 25s. So both guys set up well for the course. The skill sets, what they do well, line up for here. So I can see why DraftKings made the point to price them where they are based off of course history and current form. At the same point in time, all of the points that you brought up, they ring home for me. And it's like, I can't see paying more for Seamus Powers than I can for Abe Answer, Will Zalatoris, even Cam Tringali, who was like the most, he's like new version of Matt Kuchar. You just play him because he's going to finish top 10.
Yeah.
So I can't do it this week. If either of those guys win, which, you know, hey, we'll get to my betting card here in a second. That's different, but from a DraftKings perspective, I don't think I can get there just because of the names that follow these guys in the lower ranges.
Yep, I agree. And we don't need to talk about Russell Henley. 4 straight missed cuts at this tournament. Don't play him.
Yeah, no, he's regardless of how well he's been playing, and he has been playing fantastic. Russell Henley is a guy who is a course history guy. He plays really well at courses that he plays well at, and he plays dog crap at courses that he doesn't. He has not made a cut here. Do not play him this week.
Yep. Let's drop down to the 8s.
So in the 8Ks, Tringali leads the pack at 8,900, followed by Patrick Reed, Christian Bezuidenhout, Justin Rose, Ricky Fowler, Noren, Siwoo Kim, last year's winner, Carlos Ortiz for the first time in this year, Johnny Vegas, and of course, Charles Howell III and your boy, Luke List. Some interesting names here. The guy that is probably the most interesting to me is Patrick Reed. He's a guy who's won at this course. He's a guy who can win without any form, just flashes, shows up and wins a tournament. $8,900. And in some places you can get him 35, 40, 50 to 1 this week. What do you do with Patrick Reed?
Fade him. He's the chalkiest guy in this range. I think, From I could understand betting him. He's won here before, but I think he's the only. Let me see here. He's the only person right now on my ownership table that's coming in double-digit ownership in this range. Everyone else is single digits. So, just from a pure game theory standpoint, he hasn't been playing great. He played like garbage in Hawaii. So, I think it's a spot to fade him. I'm always. For some reason, I've always had a soft spot for Ricky. I think he's going to turn it around this season. I think he might have a little bit of a resurgence like Jordan had last year. So I'm going to go with Ricky Fowler in this range, and I also like Carlos Ortiz.
Yeah, I'm with you on Fowler. You know, this is a course where he feels very comfortable. It's the closest to where he's from in Marietta. You know, he never really plays well at the Farmers. Because it's a high profile spot, but he always sneakily plays well here.
Yep.
He's a guy who plays well in the desert. He's won the Phoenix, the Waste Management. We saw some things turn around for Ricky late in the year. You know, his last finish, I think, was at the Mayakoba. He finished inside the top 50, made the cut. His irons were good. The putting is still off. We know that he's been going through swing changes and there's questions about his dedication to the game, but I think this is a comfort spot for him. And like you, I do love Ricky Fowler from a DFS perspective here. I think a lot of folks who are regular players, the kind of people that will be playing this week, are probably going to fade Ricky Fowler in here with some of the other names like Norn and Rose and Kim and Ortiz. The other guy that I really like in this area, even though he has not played well here the last couple of times, is Johnny Vegas. Vegas was red hot through the back half of the season. You know, he finished out the year with a number of top 20 and top 25 finishes. And he's a guy who's won this tournament before. Yep. In the last 3 or 4 years, he's got a top 15 finish. He's playing very, very well. He's also a guy that does well at Pete Dye tracks. So the two guys for me in this range are probably Fowler in Vegas, and then the third guy, if I had to, just from an ownership perspective, trying to figure out where things are going to land, would probably be Kim, just because of the upside. I mean, we saw it last year. He won from out of nowhere. He is a Pete Dye guy. And if he can get hot, man, he's just one of those guys that can go nuclear and run away with a tournament.
Yeah, I haven't decided what I want to do with Siwoo this week. I mean, he was so good to me last year at this event. I had him in DFS. I had him on my betting card. I haven't bet him. I haven't been decided if I'm playing him in DFS. It's going to be one of the two. Most likely, it's just going to be a sprinkleable bet at some point. Yeah, I mean, he when I walked into the clubhouse a couple weeks ago, big old picture of Siwoo as soon as I walked in. He's holding that trophy. So he held off Cantlay last year. He played solid, but then again, it is Siwoo. He could finish DFL at this tournament. You never know. So take that with a grain of salt. So that's why I think from a DFS standpoint, it's probably a good fade. But you're never going to not be able to talk me into putting a couple shekels on Siwoo in the betting market.
Absolutely. Dropping down into the 7Ks, we have got basically 40 guys in this range. And there's some interesting plays. There's some guys who play well. We talked about Hadwin. Hadwin's probably the king of course history here for a guy who's actually never won this tournament before, but always plays well. Harmon has a very good track record here. We've got a number of other former winners, including Adam Long and Andrew Landry, who won at massively long odds. There's names like Gary Woodland, like Emiliano Grillo, Harold Varner. This is a very interesting range. My favorite guy in the world, FOMO, who I cannot stop betting, Sebastian Munoz. There are names down here. This range is very interesting, and I think you're going to see a lot of peppering. For me, the only advice that I would get is pay attention to the ownership percentages down in this range, because there are so many options. You don't need to get locked into a Adam Hadwin at 25%. Brian Harmon's course history is almost as good. He's got better Pete Dye track record history than a guy like Adam Hadwin. So don't get locked in on guys just because they've played well here, because there are so many options in this price range. Who are the guys that you like down here below $8,000?
Let me just quickly talk about ownership percentages for 7.5K and above. The chalky guys are Adam Hadwin, like you said. So a good pivot off of him would be Brian Harmon, who's way like a third of the ownership. The other guys that are coming in chalky are Russell Knox for some reason. I don't really know what that's about. People love to play Russell Knox. He doesn't have the greatest course history here. And then the other guy is Fear the Beard. Did you see him last week? Michael Thompson with his beard?
Yeah. Dude, he looks like a totally different guy.
I was like, when I first saw the coverage, I was like, who the hell is this guy? I don't know who this guy is. But apparently he grew a beard during the offseason, and he's not clean cut Michael Thompson. But yeah, he's coming in chalky. I don't think I can get there with him. So I mean, I'm gonna go back to the guys that I usually play. I like Chris Kirk. I like Harold Varner. Sprinkle a little Adam Long. He has good course history here, obviously. Yep. And I think I'm gonna go with some Lucas Glover. The guy played absolutely phenomenal last week, approach wise. So I think I definitely like some Lucas Glover in this upper 7K range.
The three names that I want to throw at you, three guys, major winners, high profile, high pedigree guys, all below $8,000. Gary Woodland, Gary Woodland, Phil Mickelson, and Jason Day. Can you play any of those guys?
Yes, no. I can play Gary Woodland. I think he's going to have a little bit of a resurgence this year. He was injured last year with the hip injury. I think he's fully healthy now, so I think I'm back to him. Good with him. I can't get there with Phil or Jason Day. No chance.
Well, let me just lay out a case for both guys. So Jason Day has not played this course at least in the last 5 or 6 years. I don't know if he's ever played it before. But both he and Phil Mickelson do well at Pro-Ams. They've both played well at Pebble Beach. Phil's obviously won this tournament before. He came in here second, 2 or 3 years ago. There is an aspect of managing the Pro-Am portion of the tournament where basically these guys are going to have to navigate 3 rounds of professional level golf on 3 different courses while having 2 amateurs playing rounds with them. And there are guys who have been very, very vocal that it's not something that they like to do. Gary Woodland is the kind of guy, at least when I look at Gary Woodland, who he is, super blue collar, goes out, does his deal, seems like a great guy. I wonder if having to walk around with, Ray Romano or, some dude that was on a reality show this year for 3 rounds, if that's going to weigh heavily on a guy like him or Brendan Todd or, Cam Champ, where a guy like Phil Mickelson or Jason Day, they seem to do well having that level of celebrity or corporate presence on the course with them in these tournaments. How much do you put into that? Like, how much does that impact your decisioning?
Not really, especially for this tournament, because I don't think they get the likes of like Ray Romano and Carlton. I think those guys go to like Pebble Beach, right? Like I think this tournament, I think the amateur part are just like normal dudes, like corporate presidents, like you said, like not real celebrities. Like I can't remember the celebrity, like any real celebrities that play at this tournament. So I don't know.
What's his name? Adam Lambert's going to be here. He's singing in a concert on Friday night. Brad Paisley's going to be playing it because he's got a concert on Saturday night. So these guys they will have a few decent celebrities, Southern California guys.
Yeah.
But I
can see the Phil thing because he loves to chat it up and do whatever he wants to do with the celebs and stuff like that. Jason Day, I don't know. They both suck. I can't get there with them, man.
Well, I mean, I just wonder because you and I had a similar thing. We went out and played around on a Saturday with 2 women who had never played golf before. Like, here we are Saturday at 11 o'clock, me and you getting ready to tee it up. And we're not great golfers, to your point. But hey, we go out there, we shoot low 80s, high 70s, we enjoy it, and we get stuck with 2 ladies that had never played golf before in their life. And in some respects, I guess I would relate that to a professional level golfer playing with an amateur for 3 rounds.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Yeah, that's got to weigh on you.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I don't really when making bets or making lineups, I don't really factor that in, but I can see where you could think about it for a little bit. But who do you like in this lower 7K range?
So below 7,300,
7,300, yeah.
Yeah, below 7,500, I love Streelman. For me, he's just there. With him, you get a very high floor, low ceiling. And you talk about ball striking, that's Streelman to me. I like Patton Kizzire. I realize he had not played well here, but some of the narrative around guys who have won here is that they had played previously. I think 12 of the last 13 winners had played prior to playing this event. Patton Kizzire obviously fits that bill. Andrew Landry, a previous winner, a guy who has, 3 top 30 finishes, including 2 top 5 finishes in the last 4 times he's played this tournament, a guy who's made the cut 4 years in a row. So I really like Landry a lot as well, too. The other guy I like down here is Putnam. You talk about corollary tracks with Valero. Putnam is another guy. He plays well here. And he's played well on those other tracks that seem to line up here. So I think those guys would be the low end one. If I was throwing out another name just for consideration purposes, because he does play well on the California West Coast swing, it's another former major winner, Francisco Molinari. Obviously, he's fallen from grace. He's not the elite level guy that he was when he won the Open Championship. But if you look at how he played on the West Coast swing last year, and you look at his course history here, he's got 2 top 15 finishes. He's a guy, when he's hitting the ball well, who can contend. And, I think Molinari finished top 10 here last year. So Molinari would be the other guy at the minimum $7,000 that I think would probably find his way into a number of my lineups.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. I love Francesco. I think he's going to have a little bit of a resurgence this year. And then I also really like you said, Andrew Landry and Kevin Streelman. Those are the popular names. I'm going to throw out a couple names that I like that most people don't know. And I want you to pay attention to these guys this year because I think they're going to have pretty good rookie seasons. And that is Taylor Moore. He was a stud on the Corn Ferry Tour, graduated the PGA Tour this year. He's going to be a good player this year. And then Hayden Buckley, man, this guy is a beast. I was watching him play last week. He was in my main DFS single entry lineup, and he is so good. The guy just knocks them stiff on every green, makes putts, great off the tee. So Hayden Buckley and Taylor Moore, these are 2 names that are not household names for you guys out there. But you should play them in your lineups this week because they are going to have good tournaments this week.
I like it. I like the guys that are coming off the Corn Ferry, coming out of college, guys that we expect to show up to be those next level guys this year. Those are nice little hits. Who's going to be the Sahith Tagala of 2022?
Yeah.
Those are the guys that I think people need to be targeting, and I think they're good
Hey,
names.
do you know if Adam Svensson, if his permanent caddy now is Tim Tucker, the guy who used to bat caddy for Bryson, or is it just like a couple week thing?
I don't know. It's interesting because he has carried his bag here for a while. I don't
Yeah.
think there's been any official announcement about him becoming a permanent caddy for him. But
Okay.
I would say just based off of, their relationship and how many times he has been his caddy over the last, let's call it 90 days, there's probably a good sign that could be a regular gig for him.
Yeah, I mean, I heard it on another show. Like, I don't think somebody that was carrying the bag for Bryson, as difficult as it is to work for him, the guy is a top 10 player in the world.
Yep.
I don't think he's going to give that up and then go back to carrying bags, especially when he has a lucrative company that abandoned dunes at what he's doing right now. He has like a shuttle company up there. I don't think he's going to leave that or not worry about that and then go carry the bag for some Joe Schmo. I think he believes in Adam Svensson. The guy played really well last week. I think he finished top 5 or top 10 for sure. So I think if Tim Tucker is dedicating some time to carry the bag of this guy, I think he's definitely worth a look this season.
Yeah, Svensson, you talked about he finished, I think, 7th last week at the Sony Open in Hawaii. He's made 3 out of his last 5 cuts. So, he is one of those young guys that I think a lot of people have kind of earmarked, along with the guy who's right there at $7,000 with him is Taylor Pendrith, the guy who absolutely pounds the ball off the tee. So there's a lot of really interesting guys down here in the 7,000s, and there's even more down below in the 6K range. When we look at the dumpster, we go diving for the trash below $7,000. There's actually, again, names here. At former major winner Zach Johnson, Dylan Wu, who has been playing much better, highly touted collegiate player Dylan Wu, who made the cut last week, finished with the top 20, maybe turning the corner. Your boy, Olympic medalist Rory Sabatini,
not my boy.
with the new Farsi set tattoo and the tape over his previous
tape over his hat.
Yeah, I guess mid-round, I'd read an article that said mid-round his sponsor had gotten sold to somebody else and they had gone live with an IPO, and so it didn't exist anymore, so he had to cover it up. It was such a weird thing. But anyway, Sabatini's here. There's also other big names, a guy who is a darling of the PGA Tour, Harry Higgs, CP Pan, a guy that we really liked. Again, another guy who's won an Olympic medal here. Nick Taylor, who played well here. Hudson Swaffer, who's won at this course before. A lot of big names below $6,000. Who do you like in the upper half of the 6Ks?
Duff Daddy.
Former winner.
Jason Duffner is one of the best ball strikers still.
Yep.
He's great. Tee to green, just can't putt. I love Jason Duffner this week. And then, yeah, like you said, former winner here, Hudson Swafford. I could get behind him. Although the last 3 times he has played here, he has missed the cut. I could always go to some Sepp Straka. I don't know, man.
Straka played well last week, man. He really did.
Yeah, it's a crapshoot down here, like it is every week. But some of these guys, some of these new names, you can go back to, like Davis Riley played good last week, Chad Ramey. Like these are some of the guys that are not household names that you can go to. But I would say probably my favorite play down here is, either Hudson Swafford or Jason Duffner, just because of their course history here and the ability to play well tee to green.
Yep. For me, I am always a sucker for Doc Redman and Sam Ryder. I like both of those guys a lot.
Where's Doc at? I don't see his price.
Doc's at 6,400.
6,400, man. This guy was like a perennial staple in my lineups a year or 2 ago, and now he's at 6,400. He dropped off.
Yeah, I was a Doc Redman truther for a good portion of the back half of the PGA season last year. Another guy who was a winner, a multi-time winner. Kevin Tway is down here. Tyler Duncan, a name. Graham McDonald, a guy who is a major winner. So there are a number of names down here. Roger Sloan, who for a period from the Rocket Mortgage through 10 tournaments played really, really well and has a top 15 finish here. Ryan Moore, who plays well on Pete Dye tracks, is down here. So there's a lot of names and a lot of areas where you can kind of sprinkle things through. A couple guys for me that I like that I think you can get some ownership on, who they haven't played great, but the form coming into this is much better than it's been. JJ Spawn coming off a missed cut. Prior to that, had made, I think, 4 or 5 cuts in a row with a number of top 25 finishes. I think this could be a buy low area for JJ Spawn. Another name that I really like this week is a guy that I mentioned is Tagala. Like, Tagala to me has all of the upside of elite level guys. He just needs to string it together for 4 rounds. He has these peak rounds where it's like first round leader and then he shoots 76 the next day. And if he can string it together for 4 rounds, and again, like we talked about, this course is probably going to set up more. This tournament, I should say, in general, is going to set up more like a Corn Ferry event than probably any of the ones that have led up to this tournament. So I like Tagala a lot this week. I love what he does from a stats perspective on approach and off the tee and from ball striking. And then, of course, my guy who I was in love with all of last year, and the stats are still lining up, even though he's missed 2 cuts in a row. The ball striking is still there. He's top 15 in approach. He's still top 10 in putting. My boy Hank Lebioda. I like Hank down here, and I think those guys you can get some ownership on. I think that you can play the game theory because no one's going to play them. Yep. And I think you're going to have to use 1 or 2 of these guys if you're doing a build that starts with either Rahm or Cantlay and then grabs a guy from the 9Ks. You're going to have 1 or 2 guys in the high $6,000 range.
Yeah, I agree. We've seen it at this tournament, man. Adam Long was what, like 500 to 1 when he won this tournament or something like that. So we've seen some pretty long shots win. We've seen some studs win. It can be anyone. I think this tournament is a pretty big crapshoot. I think Andrew Landry won here at triple digits also. So it's somebody who I think has really good history here. Hasn't been playing the greatest recently. Sam Ryder, he has 4 straight made cuts here. Nothing too great. They're all like 30th place finishes, but right down here, what are you looking for as a cut maker? So somebody who makes a cut every year. Sam Ryder, you could do worse than that. And then I always have a little love for Anirban Lahiri just because he's my Indian brother.
Yep. Yeah, no, I like Anirban as well too. He tends to show up in these. I wouldn't even classify this as a weaker field event, but in these fields where it's not a premier PGA event, he shows up, he plays well, the ball striking is always there. And then just from pure stats, like if you look not necessarily at how he's done the last few tournaments, but literally his statistics, I was just pulling him up here and now I've lost him in my file, is Chad Ramey. He's a guy a lot of people targeted last week. But I mean, you talk about this, he's top 15 in approach. He's top 20 in birdies or better. He's top 5 in opportunities gained, and he's top 20 in that key proximity distance from 150 to 175. The only thing I can't do is putt. He is god awful at putting. He is absolutely team no putt. But you talk about a course that we all believe is going to neutralize some of those putting coefficients where it's like, hey, dude, put the ball in the fairway. Approach is going to be key. Chad Ramey statistically checks a lot of boxes.
Yeah, a good spot to buy low on him too, because I think he's missed 3 straight cuts. So definitely a good time to buy low. I'm going to give you a name, and I don't know if you know him or not, but keep an eye out for him. This guy, he's French. He gets consistently priced at like the low 6Ks, 500 to 1 odds. But in reality, like I think he should be priced like high 6Ks and maybe like 100 or 150 to 1. So I think it's pretty good value. We've seen his 500 to 1 win this tournament before. His name is Paul Barjon. Do you know?
Oh yeah, Barjon played well last year.
Yeah. So he's priced at 6,100. He's 500 to 1 to win this tournament. Maybe a couple bucks on Paul Barjon, not the worst value in the world. I think he should be priced a little bit higher. I think his value should be a little bit higher. I think he should be closer to like 100 to 150 to 1. So if you're betting him at 500 to 1, pretty good value. He's not going to win, but you never know.
The most interesting guy in the tournament to me, because I love football, I love big dudes who do crazy shit, is James Dupreez.
Who is that?
South African. Look him up. He's 6'10", he's 370 pounds, and he hits the ball 400 yards.
Wow.
Yeah, he's got Kyle Berkshire. If you don't know who that is, Kyle Berkshire's speed in terms of his TrackMan numbers, and he is an absolute giant of a man. He found his way into this tournament. I don't know if he's a sponsor exemption or what the hell he is, but the dude is a freak show with a golf club. Go pull him up on Instagram. Go look at his stuff. The guy is a freak, and I'm hoping we get to see him hit a couple shots during the course of 3 days, because we're going to get 3 days of Dupree on the course. I'd love to see him just absolutely smash one of those 3 days.
So you're saying to play James Dupree? What's his name? James what? What's his name?
It's James Do, and then his last name is Preez. So okay. I'm guessing it's pronounced Dupree, but it might be Duprees or Dupre. I have no idea, because I don't speak French or South African, which I think is what is it? South African is oh my gosh, Afrikaner.
Afrikaner,
yeah. I don't speak either of those, so I don't know how you pronounce it.
So you're saying you should play James Dupree over Davis Love III at 6K?
Yes. Play him over Sung Kang. Play him over Brian Gay. Play him over former winner Mark Wilson.
I was about to say Mark Wilson, PGA Tour live announcer Mark Wilson. He's teeing it up this week.
Yeah, dude, he's won this tournament before. He's been dog crap the last couple of years, but he's got a W here. Yeah. But yeah, go check out Dupree, like on Instagram. The guy is a beast.
Okay, I'll check it out. Cool. All right, that's enough about the dumpster. Let's get into our bets.
All right, so bets for me this week. I am breaking my rule. I never like to go below 20-1. And with all of the interesting numbers, I mean, because you're getting great numbers on guys in the 30s all the way into the hundreds. I'm breaking from everything that I know, because I just have this feeling that with the strength of the top end of this field, that the winner's going to come from this area. My card is going to consist almost exclusively of guys from basically single digits into the 30s. I can't get away from Power and Gooch, because I've been betting them basically every week. I'm making the same argument for Connors, Sung Jae, and Answer. So all of those guys will be on my card. And as much as I hate to admit it, I think Patrick Cantlay is going to win this thing. I have this feeling like this is his week. He's going to win it. I took the number at 9-1. I've seen it as low as 5-1 and as high as 10-1. But I'm going to have a big nut on Patrick Cantlay this week. I'll have some other top 5s and top 10s out there, but those are my guys to win. Bombs this week for me. Basically all FOMO, Woodland, Munoz, and Gim. I'm sprinkling in your boy, the Beard. I like Thompson. He's got good course history. And like we talked about, because this course is easy. This tournament is easy. Gotta keep saying this course, but there's 3 courses that they're playing. This tournament is an easy tournament. It allows a lot of people from outside of what I would call the top end to be in play, because there's not one skill set or one design to attack and beat this course. You can basically win with a number of different things. I think if you're smart, you're probably going to scatter and bet lower down the board, because you can get some good numbers on some guys.
Cool. I never thought I'd see a day where you bet someone.
I know. I put a gun in my mouth before I pulled the trigger on that one.
All right, my bets for the week. I'm starting off my card a little bit lower than you. So I'm going Matthew Wolff at 28-1. Will Z at 45-1, Ricky Fowler at 50-1, Alex Noren 66-1, Ortiz 80-1, and then my 2 guys, Taylor Moore at 100-1 and Hayden Buckley at 125-1. I'm probably going to sprinkle a little bit on Siwoo, and I'm probably going to sprinkle a couple dollars on Paul Barjon at 500-1.
Yeah, I am probably going to add Fowler to my card at 50-1. If there's ever a spot where he can get back on the board and win, this seems like the kind of place. It might just be, heartstrings, me and you being Temecula Marietta guys, being from the area, and both being, Fowler fanboys, rooting for him. But I'll probably jump in on Fowler at 50.
One thing I did want to mention for you guys out there, just remember the cut is after actually Saturday. So it's
3 days.
Third round cut. So if one of these top guys like Rahm or Cantlay or Finau or any of these top guys shoots a bad first round, remember, you're going to get 2 more rounds for them for sure. So you could hop in on one of these guys at a much better number. Maybe you can get Rahm at like 15-1 or something like that if he shoots a bad first round, which is a pretty good number on Rahm, because he could definitely go out and shoot like 3 amazing rounds in a row. It's John Rahm. So pay attention to the live odds. If one of these guys has a bad first round and their number gets bigger, don't hesitate to place a bet on them after round 1.
Yeah, absolutely great call, especially if you got guys who play the stadium course round one and you see these guys go shoot 6-7 under on the other courses. Remember, they are going to get their chance to play these other easier courses, especially La Quinta. It's not out of the question for a guy to go out there and shoot 8, 9, even 10 under at one of these courses. So
Yep.
don't give up. You've got 3 rounds of play. It makes it very interesting from a DFS and a showdown perspective. But I think we have beat this thing to death, Rick. Good first show, man. Glad to be on with you. Glad to be back talking golf.
You played any one and done contests this year?
You know what? I thought about entering the Mayo Cup. I was this close to doing it, and then I backed out. I actually think that, with the group, we've got about a dozen guys that are on the email string that we send out every week that are into it, that kind of go back and forth. I think I'm going to put together a little one and done for our group.
Instead of one and done, we should do what they did on the Pat Mayo show. We should do like a 6-team draft, like a snake draft, and then like you just get money based on your players like throughout the year, and whoever has the most money wins at the end.
That's not a bad call. We could do a hybrid approach where basically very similar to DraftKings, where we select like 3 to 6 guys every week, and then however they finish, we tally the money up and go from there. So then you're not beholden to a winner, but if you put together a good crew and you get 3-4 guys in the top 5, like you can run away with a week.
Yeah, for sure. Let me know if you want to do something like that. But last week I took Taylor Gooch for the first event of the season. Got me a 17th or something like that. So this week I'm leaning between. I'm not going to burn Rahm or Cantlay this week, so I think I'm going to save them for bigger tournaments later in the year.
Memorial,
Memorial, yeah. Rahm and Memorial is a lock, but I think I'm leaning somewhere between like the Wolf and the Will Z, Tony Finau kind of range this week. So one of those guys I'm probably going to choose for one and done this week.
Yeah, I think for me, if I was doing one and done, it would probably be Tony Finau. He was kind of my first take on it. I think you could go nuts and go with a guy like Michael Thompson this week if you wanted to. No one's ever going to use Michael Thompson, but he's got a really good shot at getting a top 20 this week.
I think that the optimal play for one and done people out there is to take the stud that's low owned, and we literally saw it like
Scheffler. That would be Scheffler this week.
Yeah, Scheffler or Finau, one of those guys. We literally saw it 2 days ago with Hideki. The guy was the lowest owned in the stud range, and he went out and won. And the people that have Hideki are celebrating this week. So I like that strategy. And then if you feel confident about a guy down the board, like you said, like a Michael Thompson or like a Brian Harman or something, you can always take a stab at them at one of these tournaments. You never know.
Yep, absolutely. Anybody can win. Easy field, easy event. Great time to burn a guy that you would never ever use anywhere else.
Yep.
I think that's good for us, man.
Good talking to you, man. Maybe I'll see you Saturday if I feel better. I'll keep you posted.
Yep, I think we're going to, at least at the very minimum, we'll both be out at Farmers. I think Rick's going to be down at the Farmers Insurance Open as well too. I'm going to try and hook up with him while I'm out here in Vegas. But great show, dude. Appreciate it. Michael on the 1s and 2s running the board. Appreciate it, brother. Yep. Good luck this week. And follow us on Twitter. Rick, give him your handle.
At Riku Mukherjee.
And you can follow me at DFS Jags on the Twitter box. We will see you next week. Best of luck. And hope you win a bunch of money.
Yep. Thanks, Mike.